Welcome back, everyone. This is Jim Barnish, and you're listening to The Dirt, your go-to source for strategies to grow your business and maximize the value of your business. Last time, we discussed how to create value-based pricing versus the more traditional cost-based pricing that way too many companies use. We also honed in on where companies get it wrong when it comes to pricing and packaging. Well, today we're going to flip the script on how to get pricing and packaging right. Buckle up and get ready to learn how you can leverage pricing and packaging as a strategic tool for growth. Okay, so why is this important? Because pricing is not just about covering your costs and making a profit, as we talked about in the last Solocast. It's about communicating value, positioning your product in the market, and ultimately driving your company's entire valuation up. So stay with me as we explore this critical aspect of business strategy. So before we dive in, I want to make one comment. And that comment is that way too often people will fixate on the pricing part of pricing and packaging, but they're so inherently interconnected. So I feel the need to emphasize that they are equal parts in getting this area of a business correct. If you are too focused on keeping your existing packaging and simply shifting pricing, you are doing it wrong. Pricing and packaging. Okay, so with that said, here are the 3 keys for doing a pricing and packaging strategy correctly. Number 1, set a strategy for your pricing and packaging. Number 2, validate your pricing and packaging strategy with customer research. And number 3, prepare a launch plan and transition plan for the new pricing and packaging strategy. So let's dive into key number 1 first. Set a strategy for your pricing and packaging. All right, let's start with a real life example. One company that I worked with a few years ago realized that they had a pricing and packaging problem, and they knew they needed a strategy if they were going to properly update it. They came to me because of a few key issues in their business. Number 1, they were early innovators in the space and had grown to become the market leader. However, competition had entered and eaten away at their market share over the years, and they were sick of it. Number 2, their product portfolio had become increasingly complex over the years. And number 3, any transition would cause agita for a traditional long-standing customer base that had become accustomed to the term-based licensing models that they offered. Okay, so these were pretty big problems. These Solocasts are meant to be short and actionable, so I'm not going to go too into the details of how the organization solved all of the underlying issues. But the key takeaway is that they identified an area of their business that was outdated and underperforming, pricing and packaging, against the market, and they put the wheels in motion to set a strategy to change that. That's important. Primary goal for the project was to develop options for repositioning the product from a license-based pricing approach to a user-based subscription program. So the takeaway here is that you need to make sure to have an end goal in mind when starting a pricing and packaging project. In the end, that goal was achieved, but not before completing the next 2 keys. All right, so key number 2, validate your pricing and packaging strategy with customer research. All right, let's talk about customer research. You've probably heard me rant on this before, but you really need to understand what your customers' real needs and wants are. This should be at the core of any pricing and packaging strategy or any strategy in general. What do your customers want? How do they perceive the value of your product? How does your packaging make sense for their needs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? All questions that should be and need to be answered as part of a pricing and packaging revamp. An example here is that Adobe, let's just take Adobe. So Adobe used to sell its software, including Photoshop and Illustrator, in expensive one-time purchase packages. I'm sure many of you remember those from back in the day. However, they noticed a trend in customer behavior. People were holding off on updates due to the high cost, causing a significant revenue dip between product release cycles. Adobe listened to its customers, transitioned to a subscription model, and introduced Adobe Creative Cloud. That change made their products more affordable and acceptable to a broader audience, and as a result, Adobe saw a steady increase in both revenue and customer satisfaction. All right. Key number 3, prepare a launch plan and transition plan for the new pricing and packaging strategy. A critical aspect of implementing a new pricing strategy is how you introduce it both to your existing customers and potential new ones. By the way, these are almost always two very different motions, so I don't mean to combine them. New customers are simple. They don't know what they don't know. If the only pricing and packaging they're aware of is what you're rolling out now, and assuming it makes more sense based on the strategy you executed against, the customer feedback that you incorporated in competitor research that you did, they will be content. No need to bother them with the old. But then you have existing customers that have gotten used to your current pricing and packaging. And while it might not be perfect, it's the devil they know. So any changes can cause stress, even if it makes all the sense in the world for both you and your customers. That's why a transition plan that incorporates over communication, transparency, and a reasonable runway to transition is so important. So important. Have your customer success team ready and aligned to make this transition as seamless as possible, especially for your highest priority customers. Let's take a look back at MailChimp. In 2019, MailChimp introduced a major overhaul of its pricing and packaging. They were transparent and communicative about all the changes, giving existing customers a grace period to transition to the new plans. They also offered comprehensive resources and support to help customers understand the changes. This well-planned and executed transition minimized customer churn and led to increased revenue. Boom. All right, so let's bring it all together. To reiterate the 3 keys, number 1, remember that getting pricing and packaging right is a strategic exercise. It involves setting a pricing strategy that aligns with your value proposition and the long-term goals of your company. Number 2, validate your pricing with customer research and competitive analysis. Customer feedback and specifically their perception of the value you provide is incredibly important for getting this right. Number 3, prepare a launch and transition plan for your new pricing and packaging. Again, these are 2 plans, one for new customers and one for existing customers that will require a little more tender love and care. So what's your next step? I'd encourage you to take a look at your own pricing and packaging. Is it truly aligned with your value proposition and long-term goals? Are you learning from your customers how they really get value out of what you provide and what that value is? And if you are in the midst of evaluating your own pricing and packaging, are you preparing a sound strategy for launching and transitioning to new and current customers? Good things to think about. If you know a fellow entrepreneur that is currently struggling with this or any of these things, don't be shy. Please share the episode with them and get them thinking about their pricing and packaging the right way. Feel free to have them call me if they can't figure it out themselves. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to The Dirt on your favorite podcast platform for more insights and strategies to grow your business. Goodbye for now. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Dirt. JB out.